And all I can think is, you catfished me and now you drop this bombshell and you still expect me to date you? Are you insane? But I kept dating him. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to it if this is the first time you are seeing this face. Thank you for clicking on it. My name is Jacy, and my Bumble story times are easily the most popular videos on my channel. And I have for you today the most outrageous Bumble story time I have ever encountered. I have waited years and years to tell you guys this story because it is, you guys are either gonna hate me or think it's absolutely hilarious. But it was time to finally reveal the story of how I got absolutely catfished by a guy on Bumble. So if you like story times like this or just hanging out with me, make sure to like this video. It really helps me out. And consider subscribing so you can join me for other future crazy story times, because I do have more coming your way. But with that being said, let's just get started on this super embarrassing story of how I got catfished and actually continued to date the guy. All right, here we go. So this story begins a couple of years ago where I was doing what I do, and that was swiping on Bumble looking for some companionship. That's when I swiped on who we will call Jack. So Jack looked super cute in all of his photos, and we had a lot of similar interests, a lot of similar moral and political beliefs, and just like his whole profile was very well rounded, that I swiped yes and he also swiped yes. So we match and we get to talking, and we're kind of like joking along in the messages and really vibing in the sense of we're both sarcastic but had a very, very, very similar sense of humor. So I was immediately vibing with him. Now, the interesting thing about Bumble at this time was it was kind of just like a way to pass the time, just talking to people and, seeing who else out there thinks that I'm cute. But he was one of those people that I was like, hey, let's get off the app and actually meet up for coffee. I wasn't doing that as often as you guys might think, but when I found that the vibes were actually there, it was like, all right, let's meet up in person and see where this goes. So we decided on a time and place to meet up for just a casual cup of coffee. And I remember saying that I'll come to your neck of the woods just because I think I was already out in the area, and that way I kind of had an out in case the date didn't go well, that it was like, all right, well, I'm already meeting up with a friend. It was nice talking to you for a couple hours during coffee, but peace. So I show up for coffee pretty early. I remember I was about 10 minutes early, and it was this really cute coffee shop. It was more of a cafe, like it was a very sprawling cafe, very large. And so I kind of did a lap, and then I texted him like, hey, I'm here, like, are you here? And he said, no, I'm running a bit late, like I'll be there in about 15 minutes. And I said, no worries, I'll grab a seat at the entrance, so that way when you walk in, I'll know it's you, and then we can go find a seat together, because it was such a large area. So about 15 minutes later, a man dressed in all denim walks through the door, and I go, that's my date. But he's about 40 pounds heavier than all of his photos. Now, that's not a bad thing. I'm not entirely shallow, and I wouldn't swipe no on somebody just because they had a bit more meat on their bones. But it immediately felt a little deceptive of like, all right, you were clearly using old photos of perhaps an old version of you, and you didn't have any photos that reflected this current version of you. But you know what, no big deal. Let's still go on this date and see how it goes. So we find a little table, we order our coffee, and right away we start having a great time. We were having like a great connection. He was already immediately so much fun to hang out with, so easy to talk to, a great conversationalist. So we're having a great conversation, but then I fall into my habits of just interviewing him and asking him weird and random questions. And I very specifically remember it was because I wasn't super attracted to him. Like, I was attracted to him. He was still like a really handsome guy. But it also felt like I wasn't intimidated like I have been on other dates where I was just like, oh my God, like this person is way out of my league. I'm so nervous that I'm vomiting at the mouth and I can't think of what to say. But with him, it just felt very comfortable that I was just asking these oddball questions. And I remember one question that I asked, just kind of randomly, because I got this weird vibe. I asked him, so have you ever been to jail? And he kind of laughs and he goes, is this first date kind of material? And I was like, ooh, that sounds like a yes. Let's get into that. So he was like, well, I mean, I guess if you asked, I'm not gonna lie to you. Yes, I have been to jail. I recently got into a DUI and I crashed my car while super drunk. It's actually how I got this injury on my hand. And he proceeds to show me this gnarly scar on his hand and how it caused a lot of damage. He said because obviously it was a DUI, he did spend a couple of nights in jail, and that was the only time he's ever been in jail. Now, I'm obviously not a DUI proponent, forgiver, advocate. I'm anti-DUI. Obviously, DUIs are bad, but it was also one of those things of like, oh, well, you know, we all make mistakes. We're all young. We're all pretty stupid sometimes. At least you have learned from your mistakes and you know you won't do it ever again. And at least you didn't murder anybody or like have weird cyber stalking or sexual harassment or stalking crimes against you, because then I would be worried being on a first date with you. You know, ja feel? So the date's going super well. I am having such a great time. And again, this was very much in a time period of my life where I was looking to date and have fun. I was looking for a person to go out into the city and do fun things with. I was not at all looking for a relationship or a boyfriend, and I was very clear about that from the very beginning. And I also didn't just want a hookup buddy where I was getting you up texts at 3 in the morning or being like, wanna come over and watch some Netflix over pizza and wine. No, I wasn't about that. I wanted a fun companion friend to do fun things with, and I was having so much fun with him that when he asked, would you like to go on a second date? I said, heck yeah, I had so much fun, let's do it. So for date number 2, he had to come out to my direction since it was kind of like a little trade-off-y system, as you know. And so I wanted to take him to this really fun barcade. It's one of those places where you can play darts, there's a bowling lane, there's cornhole, you can get fishbowl drinks, you can go play foosball or skee ball. There's just a lot of fun activities, a lot of ways to be like, oh no, I don't know how to shoot pool. Can you show me how? Oh, thank you. You know, like just one of those fun date places. So we grab a couple cocktails at the bar, you know, still having a great conversation, catching up on what we were up to the week. And then we decide to head out into the barcade area to play some games. I remember, actually, this is kind of funny. We started playing cornhole with this other pair. It was a boy and a girl and they were cousins. And just like the Spark Notes version was, they were really crazy, was I was standing on the same side as the girl and just chit-chatting with her for a half hour. And she was telling me how she's pregnant, but her baby daddy is in prison for the next 10 years and how she's not sure if she should break up with him and all this stuff. And I was like, whoa, that's nuts. Another Moscow Mule for you guys? No, we're good? All right, cornhole, nailed it. So we leave that pair and we go play whatever like arcade games there were. And then we decide to play some darts. So we play like just casually a couple games of darts. And then I say, you know what? How about the winner of this next dart game has to buy the loser the next round of drinks? And Brian said, oh my gosh, I'm down. Now, you guys should know I'm awesome at darts. Insert Ted Lasso clip here if I'm allowed to.
Barbecue sauce.
So yeah, I'm fantastic at darts. I, of course, win that round. And I say, ah, ha, 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 oh my gosh, I won. You have to buy the next round of drinks. And he kind of just goes quiet and sullen and looks down and goes, this is really embarrassing, but I actually can't buy the next round of drinks because I don't have any money left. I need to use my last $20 for gas to get home. So I'm really sorry, but I can't buy the next round. And I was like, oh, okay. Like it kind of caught me off guard because, you know, we're in our late 20s here and I haven't met anybody like who was financially insecure, but I'm not going to judge them for that. You know, we all kind of have financial hardships. I was just kind of like, oh, no worries. I'll get the next round and then we'll call it an early night. So that way we're not spending any more money. And he was like, yeah, that sounds great. Again, so sorry about that. It's just like, haven't gotten my paycheck yet. And I was like, don't even worry about it. It's okay. In hindsight, I should have seen it as a red flag because I, again, was looking for somebody to do fun activities with, and that involves buying tickets to events, going out and about for food and trying new drinks. That it was an immediate concern because I was like, well, how are you going to pay for all the fun dates that I want to be going on? But that is a problem for future Jacy. I'm just going to enjoy the rest of our night and not worry about it. So the night comes to an end and my car was parked super far. It was like a Saturday night at this busy mall and he had parked much closer and I said, hey, like, do you mind giving me a ride to my car since you're parked right here? And he heaves this heavy sigh and he goes, yeah, like, come on in. And I thought, that's kind of odd. Okay. So I get in the passenger seat and he kind of breathes a heavy sigh and says, well, here's something new you get to learn about me. From his center console, pulls out this device with some type of mouthpiece on it. He then holds it and explains, this is a breathalyzer that has been issued to my car for the next year because of my DUI. And if I don't blow the correct amount right now, then we have to sit here until I do blow the correct amount. And I was kind of like, whoa, I have never actually seen one of these in person. I thought they only existed on cops and urban legends. But he proceeds to blow into his breathalyzer, and he was literally like 0.001 over what he was legally allowed to start his car for. And he goes, dang it, well, is it okay if we sit here for 15 minutes, or do you want to walk for your car because I can't start my car? And I was just kind of like, okay, well, nope, I'll wait here because I have follow-up questions. Essentially, once he got his DUI, obviously part of his parole, I guess, was he had to have this breathalyzer in his car for a year. Now, I was asking all these questions because I just didn't know, not like I was actually going to do it, but I didn't know. I was like, what's stopping me from blowing in it for you starting your car and leaving? And he said every 15 minutes, his breathalyzer beeps and he has to continuously blow into it. So if he were to go on an 8-hour-long road trip, he has to blow into his breathalyzer every 15 minutes, which is just so interesting because I just never knew how those things work. So there we sat for 15 minutes, and then after 15 minutes, he tried again, sobering up, putting some water in him. And again, he wasn't drunk by any means, but because his limit was so low, considering he had a DUI, that 1 or 2 drinks that we had over the course of the past 3 hours was enough to kind of like, ding dong, you can't drive, alert sort of thing with his breathalyzer. So he takes me to my car, drops me off, and we say goodnight. Now you might be wondering yourself, Jacy, that's a lot of red flags. 1, he's not using any current photos. 2, he's not financially stable to take you out on any dates. 3, he got a DUI and has a breathalyzer in his car, so technically he has a criminal record. Is that enough to make me stop dating this guy? I guess not, because we went on a 3rd date. So before date number 3, I actually learned even more kind of red flags about him, because you're sitting there talking to them in between dates, getting to know them a little bit better, having a few phone calls to really try to get to know each other a little bit better. And that's when I learned that he was not only still living at home, but he was actually technically unemployed, hence his whole financial situation. Now, the whole living at home thing didn't bother me because at this time, I was living at home. I had just broken up with my ex, I had moved back in with them, and had fallen on hard times myself. What was concerning, though, was the fact that he didn't have a job. He was a freelance employee. I don't want to reveal his place of work, but there just wasn't any work for him right now, and he just didn't have a steady flow of income. And so again, the whole financial situation did kind of worry me, but I didn't want to be shallow about it. I didn't want to be like, whoa, you're cheap. You are just a scrub sitting on the passenger side. That's not okay with me. No, I was very understanding, and I was just like, yeah, no worries. Like, I'm not going to judge you for that. But as long as you are like looking for a job, because to me, it's not unattractive to have fallen on financial hardships. It's unattractive if you're not pursuing any type of ambitions or any type of careers and you're just sitting at home playing video games with your parents all day. Which is what he did. He was a Twitch streamer, and no shame to Twitch streamers. You can actually make a lot of money on Twitch, and that can be your full-time career. I mean, look at me, I'm trying to pursue YouTube as a career. So no shame to that, but I did find it kind of just a little bit unattractive that he really was fulfilling the stereotype that he lived alone with his parents and just played video games all day. That's truly how it was. He was pursuing that as his full-time career, but there was a little bit part of me thinking like, is this just a man-child mooching off of his parents, approaching 30, playing League of Legends all day? Kind of, but again, you guys, I still had so much fun with him that I went on another date with him. So date number 3. So we decided to go to a really cool packing house, which is just one of those big old buildings with lots of mini businesses of restaurants and bars and dessert places, just a really cool, easy date place. So we actually go to this super cool speakeasy. It was so cool. It was one of those where he was like, all right, here's the bar. And I was like, where? And he pulls out a book and the whole wall moves and then you walk into this super hidden bar. It was one of like the truest speakeasy experiences that I've ever had. So kudos to him for showing me that place because it was pretty cool. So we go in and we had absinthe because it was some weird like Alice in Wonderland Mad Hatter themed bar, and they were like, would you guys like some absinthe? And I was like, well, I'm not gonna turn down a random ask like that. Heck yes, I would like to try absinthe for the first time. I also didn't know that absinthe was legal. Like absinthe and moonshine are one of those things that to me feels illegal, but they have it in restaurants, so it must be legal. I don't know, but I'll try anything once. Except drugs, kids. Don't do drugs. I'm getting off topic. So we get a couple of drinks, we're starting to feel pretty loose, pretty tipsy, and we decide to go to another Japanese bar across the way to get some sake shots. And so we're drinking, again, not at all drunk by any means, but we're feeling good. We're feeling warm, we're feeling tipsy. And, we're just having a great time. Again, I want to emphasize that I was having so much fun with him. He was such a hoot, such a great time. We were vibing really well that I was like, I'm having fun, and this is exactly what I'm looking for in terms of my dating life. Somebody to just go do fun things with and laugh with. I'll say that a million times, but I'm gonna say it again. But that's when, by the second sake bomb, he must have gotten some liquid courage because he said the words, all right, I have something to tell you. So, oh shoot, I forget what name I gave him. Did I name him Jack or Brian? So Jack Brian, heaves this heavy sigh and tells me he has something to tell me. And already I'm thinking, how bad can it be? I mean, you have no money, no job. You live with your parents. You're pursuing a professional career as a video game player. You have a criminal record and a breathalyzer in your car, and you use photos that weren't accurate to what you really are today. What else could you give me that's gonna surprise me? He dropped a bombshell, you guys. Jack Bryan says, I have a child and an ex-wife. Okay, I did not see that one coming. Jack Bryan proceeds to tell me that he had a 7-year-old daughter that he had with his high school girlfriend. They got pregnant in high school and they were trying to do the right thing by getting married and making their relationship work for the better of their daughter. However, it just didn't work out. They weren't compatible as adults in a relationship and they ended up getting a divorce. That is why he is struggling so financially, is that not only does he have to pay alimony, but he also has to pay child support. And now, having lost his freelance job, he is really struggling because all of his money goes towards that. And I'm gobsmacked. I'm speechless. And I'm a little offended that it took him 3 dates and 3 weeks of talking to bring up this huge, huge deal breaker for me. And that's what I asked him. I said, well, why didn't you tell me sooner? And he said, well, I don't usually like to tell people until I start to really feel a connection, until the vibes are there, until I know that, it might actually be a deal breaker. And I'm like, it's kind of a dick move because you really should have that on your Bumble profile, because I probably wouldn't have gone on all these dates with you had I known you were a kid. I am not trying to be a stepmother right now, and I'm not trying to be the new girlfriend to your ex-wife to come and neat me at night because she's hanging out with your daughter. Those are my immediate thoughts. But I was just like, well, you really should have told me, and I think that hurts my feelings, and I really don't know how to think about this right now, so I just need some time to think about all of this. So he walks me to my car, and it was so funny because we had a couple of drinks, and he was stuck because he couldn't pass his own breathalyzer test in his car, and so I was like, well, I don't really want to hang out any longer, like, I'm gonna head out, bye. And, he did ask me, he said, like, is this a deal breaker? Like, I don't blame you if you never want to talk to me again. I fully blame myself for not coming out with this sooner. So if you never want to talk to me again, that's totally fine. So before I left, I did tell him, you having a child doesn't actually change anything for me. From the start, I told you I do not want a relationship. I will never see you as my boyfriend. So it's not like I am really pursuing a relationship with you to where a kid will be a factor, because you should know now I never want to meet your kid and I will never meet your kid because we will not have any type of relationship to warrant that. I did tell him what actually bothers me more is your financial situation, and not because I don't associate with broke bitches or anything, but because what I do want from this is somebody to do fun things with, somebody to spend money to go to concerts, to go to events, to go out to restaurants, to buy coffee. And if you don't have that money, then all we're gonna do is sit at home and watch movies together, and that's not the kind of companionship I'm looking for. So that is actually something that I need to think about more than you having a kid, and just decide if this is somewhere where I wanna go, see if this is something I wanna pursue. So I drove away, and as I'm driving away, I'm like, yeah, I'm never talking to that kid again. He lied to me, he catfished me, all these other red flags. Yeah, there's no chance I'm talking to him again. So we actually ended up dating for a year. Hear me out, okay? Hear me out. That day that Jack Bryan dropped the kid and ex-wife bombshell was March 17th, 2020. aka the day the entire world shut down due to the global pandemic. That is the last day that Packing House stayed open for about a year. That was the last day that people weren't completely masked up and were leaving their houses not absolutely fearing for their safeties. That was the day before people were buying toilet paper and hand sanitizer en masse and not leaving their houses for months on end. It became this globally traumatic experience, and I have never experienced depression like when I did when the world shut down. Not only did all of my social interactions and experiences just completely shut off, here was this tragedy of an event where people were dying, people I knew were getting sick. I couldn't leave the house, and it was just so isolating and devastating that I had no one else to talk to but him. And so we had these virtual dates. We were texting all the time, calling each other, being like, oh my gosh, you're living at home with your parents, me too. I'm going crazy being around them 24/7. We've never had to surround ourselves with each other this much. Oh my gosh, I'm so bored. I don't know what to do. My dad won't even let me go for a walk because he thinks I'm gonna become contagious as soon as I get home. I'm going crazy. Jack Bryan truly was one of the few people that I talked to regularly because not only could we commiserate about the global pandemic, but he was just great company. Again, like I mentioned, he was so fun, so easy to talk to, such a great conversationalist, and I really did enjoy talking to him. So for the next 6 months, even though I probably would have never seen him again after that last date, he really became my companion during the pandemic, and I probably wouldn't have gotten through it without him, truly, because I was just so depressed and it was so isolating. And so we would meet up like once a month just to like get out of the house and go eat Taco Bell and try to have a picnic and get some sunlight for once. And it was such a great time. But before, where all I wanted was somebody to do fun activity and events with, everything was closed. There were no events and activities. So it was really like, he was everything I needed in that moment because I was like, I just need to get out of the house. Let's go for a walk. Let's go for a hike. Let's go to McDonald's kind of thing and sit on the park bench and just chit chat because that's all we can do. And he gave me everything I wanted and everything I needed during that first year of the pandemic. So we dated for about a year. No regrets. I still really enjoyed hanging out with him, but it just didn't work out. After about a year, we called things quits because it just wasn't going anywhere, and I definitely wanted to pursue either more other romantic kind of interests or just my career. But it was definitely one of those relationships where I was like, wow, if not for the pandemic, I don't know if I would have seen him again. I probably would have been like, that's just one too many red flags for me to go on a 4th date with you. Like, let's call it quits. But because I really needed somebody to talk to and I needed that companionship, and he was a perfect person for that, we ended up dating for a year, which is pretty crazy. And that is the reason why it took me so long to do this video, is because I know him and I dated him for a long time and I felt bad making a video about him. But at the same time, I think he kind of always knew I'd be making this video because I was absolutely pursuing YouTube while I was dating him and while he was pursuing Twitch, because we would talk about content creation all the time. That Jack Bryan, if you're watching this, sorry. You were wonderful. You're wonderful. But you did catfish me, so I had to make this video. But that's gonna be it for this Bumble story time. Again, one of my most crazy Bumble story times there is. Hopefully, I will never have another story time like this ever again, because people shouldn't be withholding information until the 3rd date, and they shouldn't be lying on their dating profiles in order to get dates and convince you that their personality can make up for it. Even though it sometimes works. But let me know your crazy dating Bumble story times down below if you've ever been catfished, or if perhaps you've dated somebody a little bit longer than perhaps you should have. Because, you know, sometimes it happens. We just take the love we think we deserve and roll with it. I don't know if that made any sense, but you guys get it. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked hanging out with me and want to see even more of my face, consider subscribing to my vlog channel, where I have been traveling the world lately, as well as just doing day-to-day activities here in LA. So if you want to follow along for that, make sure to subscribe to that. I'll leave the link down below. But I thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Toodles! Ugh. I got my blood drawn today, and it's like bleeding through my shirt. He did like the worst needle job in the world. Although this could be a future story time if these blood results come out bad, because I'm a hypochondriac and convinced myself I'm dying of a deadly illness thanks to WebMD. So stay tuned for that video. Hopefully not, though. Ow, but it still hurts.